Hello community, welcome to A Cupful with myself, Tshegetso Mwepi. Hello beautiful people, thank you so much for joining me in a new week for a new episode of A Cupful. You are officially part of this community and I hope you make yourself at home. A Cupful's main purpose is to help young people such as you and I navigate the in-betweens of life and take care of our well-being, or as I like to say, tend to our cups and to keep pouring into them in the healthiest ways possible, all the while working on healing, growing, learning, and ultimately thriving. Life is constantly happening in many ways, and if this space can give you even a little bit of affirmation, knowledge, wisdom, the strength to keep going, whatever you need in your current season and that which you can apply in your future season, then the purpose of this podcast would be fulfilled. In this week's episode, we are going to be talking about embracing the different seasons in your life. Just a disclaimer, or please note that if you hear birds chirping, it's not a sound effect. It's definitely where I am seated, where I'm recording at the moment. There is a bird nest close to the room that I am recording in right now. And I also think that it's just such a nice element to add to this week's episode, especially because of the topic that I'm going to be getting into and sort of the points that I'm going to be factoring in. So I'm going to use the weather seasons as my starting point, and that is going to sort of nicely go into what I'm trying to speak on or highlight this week. So we all know what the weather seasons are. Spring, summer, autumn, and winter. Spring is the calm after the storm. The weather's getting ready to get warmer. The trees and flowers are beginning to bloom. We are seeing color and the smell of nature is so pungent. There's a heavy being outside energy in the air. People are really looking forward to being out and about again. I am definitely people. It's one of my absolute favorite seasons because it's a reminder that things get better again. Summer is more on the hot side of things. It's also like a really, 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 really good season. I know I say spring is the best season, but I think summer is the first best season and spring comes second for me anyways. It's such a beautiful time to be in. The flowers are in their element and so are the trees. There is the softest, most inviting breeze going around every single day. There's an opportunity to do something. You can go out and have a picnic. And it can be impromptu. You don't have to plan for it because the weather allows for that. You can go out for brunch and then dinner and then a movie if that's something that you're into. It's also sundress season and short skirt season. There's so much unpredictability. I hope that's a word. But it's an unpredictability that you can indulge in and enjoy. You can stay out until 3 a.m. without a jersey on because the weather is that good. It's so fun and light with so much to look forward to. And I really just like the fact that summer allows me to be outside and to not have to worry about wearing a jersey like I have to worry about wearing a jersey and a jacket together like I do in winter. So I really appreciate the sort of carefreeness that I can enjoy when it comes to the clothes that I wear and what time I go out and just the kind of activities that I can enjoy. I can sit out on, the balcony and just enjoy a good time, like whichever environment I'm in, whether I can sit out and sit on the balcony or whether I can just sit on the floor in front of the house, like whatever. I could lay out a blanket and look up to the sky and see the stars. It's just oh my goodness, I'm sure you can hear the passion in my voice, that it's just a season that I really, really, really enjoy, because there's just so much to enjoy about it. Autumn, however, is the beginning of the shedding, is what I refer to it as. Leaves are falling off trees, it's getting windy, the weather is gloomy, or it's getting gloomy. Being out and about is getting harder, and being indoors starts happening more often. It's the beginning of having to make serious adjustments, like buying warmer clothes or bringing them back out from retirement. And by that I mean the back of the clothing cupboard. It's in preparation for colder days, winter. I dread this season so much. I really don't like the season that we're in now. Winter is relentlessly cold, and it is so uncomfortable, for me anyways. The weather is often unpleasant in the form of very cold winds, and the sky can get very, very, very gloomy, and it can last for a week, and it can last for as long as it wants to, because that's the season that we would be in. I also don't like the fact that I have to layer up. The house is cold. It's cold inside, it's cold outside. It's filled with big tasks, and I call it big because having to constantly stay warm requires you to make such a big effort. You have to layer up. It could be, the possibilities are endless. It could be a jacket, a jersey, a blanket, the heater. You have to be cooking warm food. There's more spending time indoors. I only really get excited towards the end of winter, because that means that it's the end of it. That means that it's done, and that means that spring is near and summer's also not too far off. So that's the only time that I am excited about being in winter, when it's the end of it. When it's the end of it. Seasons of the year are inevitable, though. That is the truth. They are inevitable. It's a cycle that happens all 365 days of the year, and we can't stop them. We can't change them. We have absolutely no control over them. The best we can do is prepare for them, right? If we don't, then we won't be able to function in them properly. And that's just the truth about it. You cannot wear a fur coat, for example, in spring. You're going to be very hot. And you cannot wear shorts in winter. You are obviously going to be very, very cold. And so life seasons are the same. They require preparation, just like you would be intentional about dressing warm in winter, for example. You have to be intentional about how you will work on being present in your current season, and then getting ready for your future season. The expectation that life will be filled with just spring or just summer is incredibly unrealistic. We are constantly evolving, changing, and growing into ourselves, which means we will be faced with different spaces and people, all in different times in our lives. A life season could require you to rest, another could require you to work, another may require you to reap, another may ask of you to make changes to your life, serious adjustments. And another season might be for waiting. And sometimes you will be in a season of absolute abundance, where you are enjoying all of the work, all of the fruits rather of your labor. You are enjoying all of the work that you put in and the outcome of that. And it's important to be present in each and every season that you're in, and to be accepting of each and every season that you're in. It's definitely not an easy task, but the thing is, you are going to just be standing in your own way if you don't understand that we live in different seasons in our lives as human beings, as individuals. Like the weather seasons of the year, this is very important, we need to let things take their course, as I was saying, and that happens best when you are present to learn the lessons, when you are present to collect the resources and make peace with it, even if you are not comfortable. And it's important to just embrace them as best as we possibly can. Allow yourself to ease into your seasons, especially when a season is not easy to accept or easy to adjust to. When you are in a waiting season, it can be very, very difficult to be accepting of the fact that you need to wait and you need to just be still, wait, be still, and do whatever else you need to do. So that's why it's important, and that's why I want to again use the weather seasons to just emphasize that it's important to give yourself some time and to just allow the process to happen. So when the trees are withering in your life, like they would in autumn, remember that it is not the end. It is just a season happening because it needs to. And this could look like anything really. It could be a friendship that has reached the end of its chapter, a job that makes you unhappy, a partner who you no longer align with, a career that you no longer connect to. Think of it as a clearing of space, like spring cleaning. And I'm not going to make it sound like it's a simple thing to do. It isn't. But don't put resistance ahead of accepting the place that you are in. Don't close your mind off to it. Don't close your heart off to it. Don't make fighting it off the main focus. And also remember that letting go is not easy, but to make room in our lives for the new things that we need, it's necessary, it's important. When it is cold in your life, like it would be in winter, and you need to layer up, don't forget that you can do it. You can do it. Even when it looks impossible, you can walk away and begin again. You can heal and grow and work through the pain. You are not in a position where you don't have a thing because you don't deserve it. It's not because you're undeserving, but it's because it's just not the time yet. And sometimes it's also just not your thing to have. I know with myself, I've experienced it a couple of times. I've wanted things that were not mine to have. I've wanted things that were never going to be mine to have, and I've had to learn to accept or move on and acknowledge when this is just not my thing to have. You must also understand that you deserve to experience goodness and peace, and it will be that way. The time is going to come because you are being intentional about doing the work in your life. Waking up to do absolutely anything in winter is incredibly difficult. Just like keeping it moving during a difficult season will take everything out of you. But that shouldn't be something that stops you. Take the breaks in between. This is your own race. It is your own pace. So take the breaks in between. But when it's time to keep moving, move, cry, feel, be in that place that you need to be in, where you are releasing. But don't let that stop you from continuously walking towards the things that you want, the healing, the growth, the acceptance, taking accountability. Keep moving. Even when the season is difficult, keep at it. Spring, when everything is in full bloom and it's the spring in your life and the wind starts becoming a gentle breeze, that means that it's time for you to celebrate and enjoy all of the hard work you have done. Everything is in bloom. Everything is in the beginning phases of moving towards summer. It's the time for you to have what is yours, and don't second guess yourself. It is your time to bloom, to grow, to heal, to enjoy the fruits of your labor. You must stand in your spotlight and do it proudly. Do not play small. Don't play down, or don't downplay, or allow yourself to talk yourself into a position of feeling like the strides you have made are insignificant. Please, 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 100% not. Don't play small. There is no playing small. It's your time. When it's your summer, live it up just as much. The sun is out, the sky is blue, nature smells amazing, flowers are beautiful. It would be your time to live and relax and work, and you are still continuing and being consistent. But give yourself room. Understand that this is also the time for you to put your feet up a little bit. Breathe life into yourself, into your loved ones, into the things that you love. Allow gratitude to lead and live comfortably in your life. You deserve it more than you can imagine. What I'm trying to signify, or what I'm trying to emphasize, rather, that's the word I'm looking for. What I'm trying to emphasize here is that we have different seasons in our lives. We have different points in our lives, and they all look different. Some of them are really, really hard, and some of them are a little bit easier. Some of them are hard in the beginning because we don't know how to receive going through a much better time after having gone through a very difficult and traumatic time. But that does not make us less worthy, or doesn't mean that we don't deserve to enjoy those good moments, right? It doesn't mean that when you've come out of a very difficult period, you don't deserve to be in a good one. So please remember to embrace your seasons. Remember that embracing a difficult season is obviously not as easy as it would be to embrace a much easier season, but give yourself some time. And I think embracing something, especially when it's harder, requires you to have a certain understanding of it. And in order for you to have a certain understanding of it, you need to open yourself up to it. You need to open your heart and your mind up to it. It's not just going to sort of happen and boom, you understand. You need to allow yourself to move towards that. The only difference between the weather seasons and life seasons is that life seasons do not have a specific time frame. They can go on for as long as they want to go on, or rather for as long as they need to go on. And you don't get to say, you don't get to dictate when your season begins and when it ends. And they also don't go away until they have served their purpose. So you cannot expect your season to last for as long as you want it to. You need to understand that it's going to last for as long as it needs to, not as long as you want it to. It's not going to happen to suit you. And I think that a lot of the things that happen in our lives, especially the ones that help us to grow and help us to heal, they happen according to what we need them to happen, or how we need them to happen. Oh my goodness, English. They don't happen according to how we want them to happen, because if they were to, then we wouldn't actually learn anything. We wouldn't actually heal. We wouldn't grow. There wouldn't be room for acceptance. So it's going to last as long as it needs to. And if you resist it, it's only going to extend it. I believe that. Accepting that it has arrived, rather, and making the necessary adjustments means it can embed itself, and it also gives you the opportunity to take from it what you need. And then I believe that you will be able to move on to the next season of your life, or the next chapter of your life. I know that before I completely understood or properly understood that I have no control over certain things, is in retaliation or my reaction would always be to force things to be how they couldn't be anymore. So friendships, a job, different spaces, how I treated myself. I used to struggle to embrace changes, the important necessary changes, and my resistance would always set me back. I would always find myself in these very weird, very strange situations. It's like what happens when you put the wrong key in the door, I don't know what the door, not the door handle, but putting the wrong key in the slot. I'm just going to call it a slot. Putting the wrong key in the wrong slot. So obviously what's going to happen is that you're going to break that key, and it's going to break into that slot, and that means that you won't be able to use the proper key to get in. So those kinds of setbacks, you finding yourself in very strange situations, and you have very strange outcomes, and things are breaking off, and it's just chaos. So resisting change is inviting a setback, and don't invite setbacks into your life. It's difficult to embrace changes. It's difficult to have to outgrow certain things, but they are necessary, and I think it will continue to make sense as we move on in our lives. Right now, for instance, I'm in one of the biggest and longest waiting seasons in my life. If that has not been hard enough, there has been so much that has come my way that made me realize that not making room for seasons to happen can leave you feeling ill-equipped. It literally does that. And that happens when you put resistance ahead of acceptance. In your previous season, you had the opportunity to collect the tools, to collect the resources, to make sure that you are ready to go into hibernation or to go into rest. And it was up to you, or it is up to you as an individual to see that, right? And like I said before, in order for you to see that, you have to make room, just open your heart and your mind to those changes. Make room for that. Make room to embrace that. That's how you're going to gain the understanding. You need to have a teachable perspective. I think that's an easier way to put it. When you are teachable, you open your heart and you open your mind. So it's not going to be difficult, or it's not going to be incredibly difficult for you to understand or to see that this is something that no longer fits in with who I am. And even though it's hard for me to let go of, I need to let go of it. So we have opportunities to prepare for the next seasons in our lives. Sometimes the opportunities, they come towards the end, sometimes in the middle, sometimes right at the beginning of your next season, you are given an opportunity to prepare for the middle of it, or whatever the case may be. But when you don't look at life as a journey filled with teachings, and you think that life is supposed to go a specific way, it's supposed to look like this, it must be this way because of this is how you see it, then you are going to set yourself up for failure, and you are going to stand in the way of you learning and growing and healing and understanding that you do make mistakes, that you do need to be taught, that you do need to collect resources, that you do need to be assisted. So please don't do that to yourself. I'm learning that I must always keep an open mind, and that even though I make plans, I'm going to have to understand and embrace the fact that sometimes those plans are not the ones that are going to happen in my life, and I won't actually be able to pursue them. And so opening yourself up to understanding that also allows you to open yourself up to receiving the things that are meant for you. And even though it might not align with your plans, you'll still be able to see that it is for you. So I've really struggled to embrace this chapter that I'm in right now, and embracing the fact that it's for me to learn from and grow from and prepare myself for the next season. But I'm slowly getting into that one step at a time. When things have gotten very difficult and they have gotten tough, I have wanted to call it quits, because it just feels like the weather continues to get worse and I am unprepared. I only have a jersey on when I should have 2 jerseys on or 3 jerseys on and a trench coat. And it just feels like I am very much unprepared, and it feels like I really don't know what I'm doing. And it has also felt like I don't know how to wait, because in some moments I've just wanted to, and I actually have, not I've wanted to, I'm going to be very honest, I have said yes to things that I should have said no to. It's my season of waiting, and I have known better in those moments, right? but fear has I've given fear I've given fear the upper hand. I've given fear the whole front row to occupy, and that's why I ended up saying yes to the things that I should have said no to, and it's kind of extended my period of waiting. It's extended the silent period in my life. I used to see this as punishment also, but I understand now that I was very resistant to the change that I was talking about earlier on. I was standing in my own way, and my version of fighting it off was just ignoring the fact that it's time to wait now. It's not the time for you to be running up and down and agreeing to things that you shouldn't be agreeing to. Wait and be patient. So I feel like my season of waiting has been extended in a certain way because I was resisting it and fighting it. And now that I am learning to accept it, and I am inviting feeling disappointed on some days, feeling sad, feeling like I'm held far back or much further than I should be, I have also learned to, understand that as much as I feel those things and I'm allowed to feel them, it doesn't mean that it's the end of anything. It just means that I'm in a season and I need to respect it and accept it and continue to open myself up to learning and opening myself up to being teachable. So I'm calling abundance in the next season of my life. I'm calling it, I'm speaking it, I'm seeking it until I see it. That's something I saw on a post on Instagram yesterday. So I'm speaking it and seeking it until I see it manifest into reality. And I'm also respectful of the fact that all these incredible plans that I might have for myself might not be the plans or the vision that is going to take place in my life. So I'm genuinely learning to accept that. So like I said, I'm calling abundance. I'm speaking that into existence, and I strongly believe that this is my process of preparation for it. It took all of the silence in my life for me to realize that I either embrace this or I learn nothing from it, and then I don't know what to do in the next season, and I continue not to know what to do in my current season, which I don't want. So even through the hard days, even through the moments where it's very misty and I cannot see what the hell is going on, I still have all of the hope and the faith and just the belief in the world, because also I'm a spiritual person and I believe in God, that things are going to fall into place. It's going to take some time and some waiting, like I'm doing right now, but sometimes we just have to wait. We wait for buses, we wait for taxis, we wait for our orders when we've ordered something on Take-A-Lot or from Superbalist or from wherever. So I just feel like also the more I think of things that way, it also helps a lot. That if I can wait for things and if I can wait for people, then I most certainly can also wait for things in my life to happen as they should and let them happen as they should. Opening myself up also to all of this uncertainty, having no control, and just taking things one day at a time has made room for me to learn how to be still in the silence, in the waiting, as a spiritual person, to rest in God's promises for me and work at clearing out the doubt and invasive thoughts that I will not get to where I'm trying to get to. That the no's, which I've heard a lot of no's, I'm getting a lot of no's in this season of my life. There have been quite a lot of them, that even though I've been getting no's, it doesn't mean that it's never going to happen for me. And as cheesy as it might sound, if it is not coming to me, then it wasn't mine to have in the first place. So I can't force it into being this season is helping me stand on that, and I'm doing that proudly. In the moments where I'm really grasping it and really understanding the importance of it, I am standing in it proudly. Of course, it's disappointing when you hear a no, because, I had hoped to get the thing that I believe I deserve because I worked hard for it, or because I think that I qualify for it. But sometimes that might not be true. Like, it might not be true. I mean, it's okay to believe, and you're right to believe that you deserve a thing, and that because you've worked hard for it or you qualify for it, that you should get a yes for it, right? And it can be absolutely crushing and like really humbling if the answer that you get is not the one that you want to hear. 100%. That is, I can never dismiss that or disregard that. But sometimes the things that we want, it's just not the time. It just isn't the place, right? And feel those things, but don't let the thought of disappointment linger around for too long. Otherwise, it's going to start convincing you that nothing better is going to come around. And that's when you start saying yes to the things you should be saying no to. I know that a sea of no's has always pushed me to say yes to even the most pathetic, low positions or opportunities, right? And I have had to realize, after a lot of reflecting and a lot of sitting with myself, that it is never a good idea to look into your pool of no's and make that a motivating factor for saying yes to something that you don't deserve. Those no's are not a gateway to saying yes to something that is not meant for you. Because number one, it's going to disadvantage you significantly. Number two, it's going to set you so far back. You've worked really hard, to do all this work on yourself. And then you end up in a place that is not good for you, and that's going to set you back. And that's not something that anybody wants. So please don't say yes in a moment of desperation to something that is not meant for you. It's very difficult. It's so hard. I hate to call it character building, but to a certain extent it is, being able to say no. Being able to say no when you can say yes. Being able to say no when you can see that something is not meant for you. It just shows so much character, and I have the utmost respect for people that know themselves well enough and understand that there are bigger things out there for them, that they are able to say no. So get yourself into that headspace and take the time on yourself to learn to understand that a pool of no's does not mean you should be saying yes to something that you do not deserve, or not even that you do not deserve, that does not deserve you. Seasons are also what you make of them, and the more you make of them what you need to, the more likely you are going to get something valuable out of them. Not just material or money, and sometimes not either one of them. Sometimes it's healing you need, affirmations, the silence you've been avoiding. Sometimes it's the changes you've been avoiding. Use your intuition. Let your gut be a guide. Nurture it. Trust it. Trust yourself and your feelings. Trust that when you are uncomfortable or you feel that certain spaces, people, and ways of doing things are not working out for you, then you need to allow yourself to move on from them. Take the accountability, take the responsibility, and make the conscious decision to move on. Prioritize your well-being by making good decisions for you that will make room for you to grow and heal. Embrace that your life will not always look the same, that you won't always look or be the same, that there are going to be many versions of you that you need to work through, heal through, move on from, and even celebrate. Embrace that. We are going to be different people in different times in our lives, and we need to do work, and we need to constantly make an effort. Let that happen. Invite that into your life. Embrace that even through the chaos and uncertainty, this is still very much your life, and it does not stop being that because you do not get what you want when you think you should get it, or that you are done doing the work when you have received the things you have always wanted. You don't slow down on the work ethic when you have been promoted at work. The momentum stays at an optimum. It should be the very same when you get something that you've always wanted. I've recently started understanding something and also believing that we are often pressurized and led to believe by society, social media, and what we physically see other people to have and to be, that life is meant to look a specific way. It shapes how we choose to pursue a lot of what we want. Sometimes we fall into the trap of believing that our lives are supposed to look a specific way, and we miss out on how our lives are actually meant to be. We miss out on the valuable tools each season presents us with, each moment that season presents us with, and each opportunity to truly live our lives, tailored for us as individuals. Don't fall into the trap of living a life that you think you should live. Live the life that is actually meant for you. And when you have opened yourself up to genuinely learning and being teachable, you're going to catch on to a life that is meant for you, not a life that is being lived by everybody else, or not a life that you think you should live based on social media and society and the lives that you see other people live. So actively choose to live the life that is meant for you, the one that is truly yours, not the one you think is yours, your actual one. And only you can make sense of that. Only you can want to make sense of that also. Once you know what it is, live it. If you want to go and live on a farm far away from everyone at some point in your life, and you're working towards that right now, and you're working towards saving for that, and you know that in 2030, that's the life that you want to start living, then that's your life. You don't want to live in a high-rise building. You don't want to wear Louis Vuitton. You don't want to or wear Louis Vuittons. You don't want to wear Louis Vuitton either. You are not interested in this designer lifestyle and, wearing frontals. That's not who you are. You know your life is living on a huge farm and tending to livestock and just creating that kind of a life for yourself. Then that's your life. And embrace that and continue to work towards that and walk towards it. Embrace it and take each and every opportunity you can to show yourself lots of grace and compassion through all of those different days, working towards what it is you want. And that's where I'm ending this week's episode. Thank you again for joining me. I hope you enjoyed it and that it has given you something to think about and it's given you some kind of comfort. Please don't forget to share this episode and overall podcast as far and wide as you possibly can. Cupful is available on Anchor, Apple Music, Spotify, Google Podcast, and Amazon Music. On Instagram, it is at @a_cupful, and your thoughts and comments are very welcome via DM or in the comments of this week's post. I hope you spend the rest of the week learning to embrace the season you are in and extending lots of grace and kindness to yourself. I will most definitely catch you in next week's episode, and please don't forget to keep doing the things that keep filling up your cup.